Hello, welcome to our community coaching alumni interview calls. Um, this is Kate, and Kate was in the fourth cohort, and I also served as Kate's mentor for the program. So it's a joy to have her on this call and just get caught up on what's happening and how she's using the community coaching. So go ahead, Kate, give us a little bit about what you're doing right now, and we can get into how you're using the skills.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm delighted to have this conversation. So I'm Kate Trompetter. I'm an organizational coach in Stanislaus County in Central Valley, California. I have spent the last year or so working as an organizational and leadership coach. As a business person, I left my employer of 14 years to do this. I work almost exclusively in the public sector. So I work with government organizations and nonprofits. And I've been very, very busy and delighted to be doing what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So can you talk a little bit about the impact that the coaching certification course had on you, maybe personally and professionally, and then we can kind of delve a little bit into how that's directly related to some of the work you're doing.
Yeah. So, for me personally, the timing of the certification course was really important. I didn't really plan it this way, but I was still employed by the employer I was with for well over a decade. I was sort of playing with the idea of going out on my own, and the CCC course, I believe, is almost exclusively responsible for giving me the confidence that I needed in order to do that. Both because I learned some really important skills, honed some skills I think I already had, and also felt like sort of held by a community of people, and that made it really possible, along with my community in Stanislaus County, to just make the leap, knowing that I had the resources and the support behind me. And I also think that going through the course, because you can't go through the course without having sort of a personal experience of exploration and reflection, was really important as I prepared to do that work with other people, that I'm not doing anything now that I haven't personally experienced myself with, through the coaching certification program. So it was also personally just a really powerful period of time in my life where I got to think about my role in my community, power, equity, like all the kinds of things that really align strongly with my value system that I was really didn't know at the time, but learned through the process, really wanting to invite my community into. Mm-hmm. So that has really stuck with me. It was like a personal development experience in that way.
Yeah. It really, I don't know if we do a lot around, marketing our programs around that piece, but it is always what we talk about, and how essential that is, right? I think about areas of vulnerability and getting below that presenting agenda and all that's really important for us to do that and experience that, know before we can expect or support other folks in doing that, I think. So
I feel like a lot of the feedback I've gotten to in the last year from my clients is the ease with which they feel like they can have this experience with me, and that part of their reflection is that they can tell that I'm living, what I'm inviting them into. And so that feels really important. I don't think I ever knew, it wasn't explicit, right? Like that was part of the experience, as you're saying, Kathy, that but it's been invaluable, the impact that it had on me personally, and now what I'm able to translate and invite people into.
Yeah. I tell folks a lot that I show up differently now than I did before I was involved in my own coach training programs, and now as an instructor for Leadership That Works and all the other roles that I play. But regardless, no matter what, I'm showing up very different, and that feels so good. Like it's much so natural to show up in this coaching stand way of being. Do you find that?
So I'm laughing because, when you say how has it impacted you professionally and personally, and there's so much that's aligned about those two things that for somebody, I'll just say about myself, I'm very aware that I spent the sort of, certainly my adult life and probably my adolescent and childhood time as well, being somebody who needed to know things and needed to have answers, and felt like a lot of my success was sort of grounded in needing to know or being able to know. And one of the things that I feel like the coaching sort of mindset and the experience through CCC did for me was like really get confident being curious. And that requires me to release the knowing.
Yes. Yes.
So that has had a deep personal impact on me in my parenting and my marriage and my friendships. But in my work, my ability to be curious with my clients,
Yeah.
and then to invite them into being curious, like it feels, it doesn't feel it. It has become a foundational leadership competency as far as I'm concerned, human being competency, but like it's the thing that opens us up to everything that's possible. So that has been profound.
Yes. Oh yeah, I love that. I do. That's why we do a couple classes. I'm not sure if we did. I think we did this with your course as well. But in the current cohort, we spend a lot of time on curiosity and coming without judgment. And it's not as easy as it sounds, is it? To come with that. It's very a lot of stuff going on in our heads all the time.
And it's a very habitual response, right? To like have an answer. That's how we're trained.
That's right. Exactly. Right.
So that experience really blew that up for me.
Sure. I'm wondering, Kate, could you talk about any specific projects or any part of your work where you see the coaching and the certification having impact?
All of it. All of it, yeah. But I think I could maybe narrow it down. The first thing that comes to mind is very early on, after I graduated, I was engaged by our local sheriff's department. I have been very curious how that would go. I wasn't sure that the culture of our local law enforcement agency would sustain my way of working, or would be able to sustain, given the way that I work. And I've just been delighted that our local law enforcement leadership continues to be very interested in having someone like me think with them about, specifically in this case, what it means for them to be better internally around things like leadership development and how they're supporting one another, but also how they're engaging community. And that I remember very early on talking with some leadership from our local sheriff's department, who basically said, "I don't really love the words that you use, but I know I need you." And it's, because there's I think for them, there's something a little woo-woo about some of the language that I use. And of course, I've adapted my work to whatever culture I'm working in based on the organization. But so I'll give an example of something we've done with the sheriff. We've gone on a series of listening. We've done a listening tour. So he's going around with me. I get to sort of curate who's in the room. We ask a series of questions about their relationship with law enforcement, what the stories they have about law enforcement and the way they engage with community, what transparency means, what they think the role of leadership in law enforcement is. And our sheriff has had to not had to, I've invited him to listen and to practice the listening, and to also think about what it means for us to hold lightly to the opinions that we have about how things should be or what's right and what's wrong, and just be sort of infinitely curious. And then we have sessions together where we can really unpack that work. And I think it's there's a lot of healing that is possible when you do that work. So I'm just thrilled that I continue to be in relationship with them. And that's just one example, but I work in so many different contexts. Foundationally, it's all the same. It's about how I'm doing a lot of work with folks in positions of, certainly people in positional authority who have positional authority, but also folks in community who are in positions of influence, to really be thinking about what it means for us to engage with other people, especially when there's divergence, and when it's those hard spaces to be in.
Yeah. Oh, I love this work with the Sheriff's Department. I think you and I have talked about that. It's been a while, but we did talk about that, and the institutional culture and the impact that that has on communities if internally those cultures can begin to shift and change.
Mhm.
And it feels like really important deep work to do that. And I hear a hunger for it. And like you said, they're not real comfortable with our words necessarily, or they feel like, that's not who they are, as but they're hungry. They're hungry for, I'm hearing a hunger for this, for some deep thinking and some healing, like you said, for sure, and some space to be able to say, to deal with the trauma, secondary trauma, all of that,
Yes.
right? It's
I
just,
mean, I just that word trauma. I mean, there was, and so I had a story that like law enforcement was different, and they are, but every organization is different.
yeah.
And what I've been learning over the last year is there was a moment in the CCC training where we talked about trauma informed coaching,
Mhm.
and it was an important lesson, just like all of them, but I hadn't operationalized it yet. But I think that one of the things I'm experiencing now is what it means for an organization to experience trauma. And it's true for everybody. There's so much healing that needs to take place before we can start to create things together.
Right, right. And as I tell our law enforcement institutions here, I want them healthy and
Yeah.
mentally healthy. Because then it's better, it helps our community, right? Like that. That's what I want as a community member. I want them
Yeah.
to be doing this kind of work. So,
Yeah.
all right, Kate, I'm really mindful of the time, and I know we could talk for a very long time. So I just want to thank you for sharing your story today, and so proud of the work you're doing. And it feels like it's exactly the intention for the community coaching certification. So thanks so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, take good care.
You too.